So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 13 versus iPhone 13 Pro, which to choose. Now, I've had both of these for around about a month now, and I want to share with you which one I do believe is the one to go with and help you decide. If you're trying to decide, should I go with the Pro or should I get the regular 13? If that's on your mind, this is going to be a good video for you. So beginning with the iPhone 13. Now this one does come in several colors: blue, midnight, starlight, product red, and the new pink. So if you're into pink, they got that color for you as well. It starts at around $799, but be aware that it's on a carrier plan. If you do get it unlocked, it's $829. It can go all the way up to $1129 or $1099 if you're on a carrier, for a 512 gig option, which is new this year for iPhone 13, and that's quite a bit of storage. Now for the iPhone 13 Pro, starts at $999, just like it did with the 10, the 11 Pro, the 12 Pro, and it goes all the way up to 1 terabyte at $1,500. You can get this in Sierra Blue, Graphite Gold, and Silver. I wish they had a product red with this color. It would be amazing, but not this year, not quite yet. Maybe they'll do a mid-cycle on that. We'll have to see. But let's begin by discussing the things when it comes to build quality, how they feel in the hand. After almost a month of using this phone, I would say that the iPhone 11 has this nice clean feel around the edge, very thin. It is a squared body like the iPhone 12, but the whole back is like this glass material. So I find myself doing this quite a bit, cleaning it down here for the iPhone 13. It's a little bit more fingerprinty here on the rear, but in here it's not too much on this. You do have the diagonal camera there, which is a design change. Overall though, it feels a little bit heavier, a little bit more substantial than the iPhone 12. The notch does get a little bit different there, not quite as wide as before. But then you pick up the 13 Pro and you're like, well, what's the difference? Well, the camera is a lot bigger. You know, you could see you have 3 of them, and just kind of looks a little bit bulky, I would say, on the body of the 13 Pro, but still, it's pretty amazing that you have those cameras on there. And then you have the stainless steel edges. It definitely feels more premium, a little bit more pricey when you pick this one up, and you could definitely feel it with those edges. Now, I will say the edges on here are a little bit more prone to scratching and, you know, getting a little bit messed up. So if you're more of that type of person who gets anal about that, you might prefer the clean edges of the iPhone 13. But the back, I strongly prefer on the 13 Pro. It just doesn't pick up fingerprints. It just looks really nice. It feels nice. But up in here, they go with the opposite effect here inside of the 13 Pro's camera system, where it's a little bit more shiny. So I'm constantly cleaning the camera off on the 13 Pro. That gets a little bit annoying, but still, overall beautiful phone. If I was to say one that looks better, I would say I think it's the 13 Pro. I don't really like the diagonal cameras in the dual format. I personally prefer them here, but that's just my taste. Overall, I'd say they're both beautiful, but you can definitely feel the more premium feel on the iPhone 13 Pro. Now, they both do have IP68 dust and water resistance, and they both are ceramic protected shields, so definitely both going to be very durable there. Either way you go, you're getting a strong phone. All right, so what have I noticed about the displays? Well, both of them are very bright. The iPhone 13 has an important fact that you should know. It has the same brightness level as the iPhone 11 Pro and the 12 Pro. So essentially the 13 is like last year's Pro display. It's a 6.1 inch like the 12 Pro. It gets to 800 nits. So you're basically getting a Pro display. In the 13, you're just not getting the Pro Motion display. And of course, they're going to make you want that when you play with that. It's very smooth. But I will say the iPhone 13 with its A15 is still a very smooth, you know, overall experience. It doesn't really have a major problem, and that's why they're going to sell the truckloads of these right here as well. Now over here, the iPhone 13 Pro, you are getting that smooth refresh. And again, I do think the average person could see this if they stack them side by side, but I also think the average person, if they were using the 13 and never, you know, really cared about looking at this, they wouldn't care either. So that doesn't mean just shy away from the 13. It just means that if you're really obsessed with having the best of the best panel with the scrolling speeds, go with the iPhone 13 Pro. And some people say, well, Android phones have that at a cheaper price point. Well, you got to keep something in mind. Even though this has a 60 hertz panel on the iPhone 13, a lot of those Android phones with 120 hertz, they don't get as bright as this. And also, they're not as well tuned in the accuracy and calibration. In addition, they don't run iOS and giving you all this premium software and software support. So, you know, people aren't just going to say no to the 13 and go get some Android phone, some cheap Android phone with a 120 hertz display just because it has that one feature. Whereas they can just go with the 13 Pro if they really, really want that feature. But you have to decide, because this does hit a higher brightness of 1000 nits. And I'm not trying to talk down on the 13 Pro. I love it. It's definitely the better panel here. I just don't think most people are going to be able to stand 1000 nits, you know, indoors. And then when you get outdoors, guess what? Both of these can hit a max peak of 1200 nits. So that means when they get outside, when that brightness, auto brightness kicks up, they're both going to be super bright. And I've already seen this when testing the iPhone 13 outdoors. It was ridiculously bright right in direct sunlight. So both IP68, both of them do have the ceramic shield on them. They're both very strong here in durability. Really, it's down to that one feature, and that is Pro Motion. And some people say, well, it's more efficient with the battery. The 13's been pretty good as well on battery life as well. So again, do you want to pay the extra few hundred for that smooth factor? If that's you, go for it. You're going to love the 13 Pro. But if you're like, Nick, bro, I don't care. I just want a new phone. I want, you know, the new cameras. Go with the 13 then. You'll be fine here. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on software because they both do have the same exact experience. That's the great thing here. There's no really such thing as a pro software experience for the iPhone 13 Pro. Well, yeah, you have a couple extra camera things you can do in the iPhone 13 Pro, but they're not many. You got the 0.5x here. Obviously, you have that in the 13 as well, but you got the telephoto zooming. But you'd be hard pressed to find a difference in the iPhone 13 besides that camera, you know, having that telephoto zoom. They're essentially the same exact experience except for that digital zoom right there. I'm just not seeing no major differences. Widget support on both of them, app libraries on both of them to improve FaceTime features, focus features, same longevity with software support, having the same chip, same experience. They don't give you no pro extra features besides maybe a couple things in the camera. But I gotta say, either way you go, long support, very good software, and both of them going to give you that same experience. Now, when it comes to the performance elements, there's one separator between both of these, and that is the RAM that comes with the iPhone 13 Pro. So I'm having troubles clicking an app, but you can see the iPhone 13 Pro does give you 6 gigabytes of RAM. Let's go over here to Geekbench on the iPhone 13 and check out its RAM. You'll see it's at 4 gigs. So this Geekbench needs a little bit of an update, but you'll see 3.6. So what does this mean? Essentially, if you're pounding on these phones, and what I mean by pounding, well, you're going to have a few apps open at once and you're kind of going through all of them at one time. So let's say you're buying something and you're doing a calculation and you're going to Twitter. Like if you're doing stuff fast like that, heavy usage, you're in between a lot of things at one time. This phone may, in fact, very rarely, not going to happen often, but this phone might reload something. This one going to stay pretty much solid all the way through. So this is going to be useful for the heavy user, but I would say in terms of performance, I would not pick the 13 Pro just because of the RAM. If you're just a regular user, it's going to be very hard to get either the choke. They both have the A15 and both are boss in performance. Now, when it comes to battery life on both these phones, the iPhone 13 is actually the phone with the larger battery at 3240. However, because of the efficiency of the iPhone 13 Pro with its 3095 milliamp hour battery, the efficiency of Pro Motion, the 13 Pro actually outlasted my iPhone 13, but not by a whole lot. And both of these are going to give you fantastic battery upgrades over your old iPhone. Both of them easily making it a day. I could see some people making it a day and a half on both of these, and it's coming in at that sweet size 6.1 inch size. So you got to decide if you want the best of best battery life, go with the Max. But between these two, I would say if you want a little bit better battery life, you're going to pay a little bit more for the 13 Pro and get it there. However, I don't think you're going to be very disappointed with the iPhone 13. This one is a very efficient phone as well, and I think most people would have trouble making this one, you know, give up all of its battery life by the end of the day. So both of them strong in that element. I would say go with either, but if you want just a little bit more, I would have to give it to the 13 Pro. It was proven in my battery test that it can outlast the iPhone 13. Okay guys, so when it comes to the cameras, this year the 13 Pro actually has quite a few benefits over the 13, and I'll share them with you here. So heading to the camera, not that the 13 is not amazing. This is an amazing camera with cinematic video updates. However, it retains some very similar specs as the iPhone 12. besides having that cinematic video. Now this is the Apple Watch Series 7 in the photo frame. We'll be covering this soon, so let me know if you want to see that. But over here, I will say having 4K 60 video, pretty amazing. And I believe you could do the HDR video now on the 60 frames per second as well. So over here for the 13 Pro, the major difference is that the lenses let in more light. They are f1.5 on the main wide versus f1.6 for the iPhone 13. In addition to that, this phone gives you the telephoto, which is quite a bit of an update. Plus it can zoom 15x. This one can only zoom 5x. So major upgrades in zoom. And the ultra wide camera in here also has a much better f1.8 lens, which means that the ultra wide can get very good night photos as well. Of course, video is quite similar on both of them at 4K at 60, but again, with that lens that could let in more light, the nighttime video should be slightly better for the iPhone 13 Pro. So if you want the better video, you want to let in more low light photography, so for night photography, get the iPhone 13 Pro. You're going to be very happy. If you're just very happy with some very solid regular photos, you don't care about a ton of zoom, you'll appreciate what the iPhone 13 offers. It's very good. And then on the front facing camera, you'll see they both do have, you know, the same 12 megapixel camera. They can both do 4K 60 on the front. So the front cameras would be hard to make out a difference, and Apple needs to do some upgrades on those front cameras. But overall, I'd say if you care a ton about the camera, get the 13 Pro this year. It's definitely the better option from Apple if you're looking for the best of the best. But these are really strong offerings on the 13 as well. Okay, when it comes to audio, I'm not really going to play any songs in this video or any videos because I wasn't able to discern much of a difference in this area. Now, I did notice that they do have around the same amount of holes as well on the bottom for the microphones. And you can see right there. So I gotta say, they're both pretty loud, and I would say that if you're gonna use these phones, you might want to pick up some AirPods or some Beats Studio Buds because they work flawlessly with this. We'll say though, when it comes to the phone call quality on both these devices, they are both really good because they have Qualcomm setups, and the 5G performance is even better on these, I've been finding, than the iPhone 12. It just has more 5G performance. I'm just seeing it, you know, lock on a little bit better. And so this is an area of improvement. This is going to make these phones really good recommendations in this area. They both retain Bluetooth 5.0. So some other phones are getting 5.2 at this point. So they're a little behind there. They do have Wi-Fi 6 as well, but some of these things have already been on the iPhones in the past. So connectivity wise, it's basically, I'm seeing the USB staying the same as well with the Lightning port. I wish we'd seen USB-C. That can be upgraded. But I gotta say, in terms of, you know, connecting to your mobile network and phone call quality, these are nice updates if you had anything older than like the iPhone 12, for example. And so let's discuss why you would choose the iPhone 13 over the 13 Pro. We discussed all the elements that differ between these mostly that you'll notice. And here's the 4 people that I would recommend picking up the 13. You will not regret this purchase. Number 1, you want to save money. You want to save money. And let me repeat that, you want to save money over a 13 Pro. Number 2, you could give a blank, you fill in the blank less about the Pro Motion displays. You can give a blank less. You fill that in. I'm going to let you decide that. Number 3, you like the colors on the 13 more. You want that pink. You want this blue. You want some color that the 13 can offer that is not available for the 13 Pro. This is going to be for you. Number 4, you want a great camera system, but you find you don't necessarily need the ultimate camera system. You're not that much into photography and video that you got to go all out to have an extra 15x zoom in video. Now, I can tell you there's a lot of people that just don't take photos and videos to that degree that they need that much power. You'll be very happy here with the 13. Now for the iPhone 13 Pro, there's 4 people I recommend get this phone as well. Number 1, you like top of the line premium feel. You like this with your watches, you like this with your cars, you like this with your clothes, you like the top dog device. You like the top dog thing, the highest quality you can get, and you got the funds to cover it. Go for the iPhone 13 Pro. You need the extra battery life. This is all you then. You're going to want the 13 Pro. It gives you a little bit better battery life. But if you really care about that, you should consider the Max as well. Number 3, you really desire to use your camera heavily. And when I mean heavily, I mean you're going to use that ultra wide at nighttime. You're going to use a regular wide at nighttime. You're going to use that zoom camera. And even if you're only using one, it's still worth it. Like if you really want telephoto, you got to get this phone. If you really want, the highest quality video you can do, you're going to get it on both, but you'll still want this one for the better low light performance. And number 4, you just don't want anything less than the best Apple can provide. You're into having the best overall heavy use experience on your phone. You'll want the 13 Pro. And of course, I'm going to throw in a bonus there. You like the Sierra Blue. It's the marketed color. You like the, gold. You want something that looks a little bit more, luxurious. You'll like 13 Pro. For me, if I could pick only one, I would go with the 13 Pro. And I'll tell you why. Because it was more upgraded, I feel like, than the 13 was over the 12. But either way, these are both impressive devices and you can't go wrong either way, no matter if you choose the 13 or the iPhone 13 Pro. Let me know if this video, you found it helpful, entertaining, informing down below, and I appreciate it if you leave it a big thumbs up. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, I'd like to hear from you down below in the comment section of this video. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. I will catch you all in the very next episode, and peace.